the state. Since 2002, we've been doing work for the Illinois Association of Park Districts, and in the last several years, we've been doing studies for them every other year. Since 2009, we've been doing community service for the Naperville Park District. 2009 and again in 2012, and most recently 2017. Most of those have been very broad attitude and interest surveys. What we've been talking to staff about for this upcoming survey is more of a needs assessment to understand more specifically what types of recreational activities, facility needs, program needs the community is interested in, which of those are currently being met and delivered sufficiently, and also where there are gaps, which ones are not totally available in the community that might represent opportunities for the park district. The approach that we're recommending for this upcoming survey is very similar to the previous surveys. We're looking for a sample of at least 500 randomly selected households within the park district boundaries. That sample size is large enough for a large community the size of Naperville. Just for some perspective, when we've done work for countywide forest preserve districts, conservation districts, much larger geographies, much more diverse populations, those sample sizes are usually around 600, so only slightly more than what we're recommending for Naperville. The reason we're recommending 500 for Naperville is we want to look at a lot of demographic differences to see if there are meaningful differences by age group, whether or not a household has a child under 18 in it or not, race, ethnicity, region, gender, all sorts of things. The degree to which they're currently using your facilities and programs, which is another reason why we put so much emphasis on the randomness of the community-wide survey, is that we want to make sure that we're including households that are not currently involved with the park district, the non-participants, the non-users, to understand, especially from them, why not? Are they going somewhere else for their activities, or are they just simply unaware of what the park district is offering, or is there a need that they have that isn't currently being made available to them? So that's the scope of the work in terms of the sample size. We'll solicit and recruit people to respond by mail. Again, it will start with a random sample of households, and we send out postcard invitations and pre-printed questionnaires to them, asking them to respond. The questionnaires will have a prepaid return envelope to our office where we'll process that data directly. Both the postcards and the questionnaires will also include a website where they complete the survey online if that's their preference. And it will also include a toll-free number to our office in Evanston if they prefer to do it over the phone. So in essence, we're giving everybody one of three ways to complete the survey. We're trying to cover as many options or preferences that an individual might have. There are some younger people who would never fill out a 6-page questionnaire. There are some older people like me who may not want to complete something online. So we want to make sure we're covering all of our bases so that we get as strong a response rate as possible. We'll end up sending these out to thousands and thousands of households to get our 500, but we're committed to getting a minimum of 500 completed surveys. And from there, once we've got our sample of 500, we'll compare that to the most recent census data for Naperville to make sure our sample is in line regionally by age, gender, all those demographics I mentioned before. And if it's off, we'll wait for respondent data so that it aligns with the census data, so that we know on those key demographics, the results we get from the survey are representative across the entire community. We'll analyze the results, we'll present the findings, we'll provide the data file, we'll provide all the crosstabs and banner tabs. But we really think it's our job to port through those crosstabs ourselves and pull out the statistically meaningful differences rather than drop them on your lap or the staff's lap and say, okay, have fun, read through these. You'll have them there for reference, but we'll do all the heavy lifting in terms of pulling out the information that really warrants some attention and understanding. And then we'll present those findings to you at a future meeting. And then, as always, we remain available afterwards for follow-up questions, deeper dives into the data. If there's some consulting you need on action items, and want to incorporate and understand how the survey comes forward or suggested approach for that, we're available to you to help you have those discussions. In addition to that, the survey results will also be an important part of, and one part of what Christian will be incorporating into his broader market analysis. And I'd like to invite Christian to come up to introduce himself and explain his process. And then when he's done, we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Greg, would you just refresh me with what was the time frame that we were doing the sampling?
If I remember correctly, we're looking at spring next year.
Yeah, spring of next year. So historically with our community surveys, we worked with Jeff during the course of the winter months to develop the questionnaire, get the tool ready.
Right.
And then later in the spring, during the course of the spring, Jeff and his staff are getting the result, getting the feedback from the community. And then a final report is provided to the Park District in the summer, which we're targeting June 30th of 2020.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And if I can just add that it will kind of mesh with President Todd, what you want to do is to form a small committee of commissioners to sit with us to kind of put this tool together.
Right.
And then once we feel good about the tool, we bring it to the full board for the blessing for this street.
Hi, my name is Christian Benner. Let me give you a little background about myself. I've been working with Dan Martin for about 20 years. We started out as Economic Research Associates, and then moved on to being absorbed into AECOM, which I don't know, maybe you're familiar with that. It's a large engineering corporation. And in 2008, we went our own ways and started market visibility advisors. We've been working together basically as a two-person shop ever since. And unfortunately, November of last year, Dan unexpectedly passed away. His family decided not to continue with the business. So that is one reason why the change in companies has taken place. MFA is going to be phased out by the end of this year. My work is twofold right now. I'm finishing up all the projects that MFA signed on, and I'm also working on projects with my own company now. So my background is a lot of feasibility and market assessment studies for recreational activities, for leisure activities, entertainment, but also for real estate developments and, for example, TODs, mixed-use developments, retail, and office developments as well. So there's a broad spectrum of activities that my company actually does. My background is I'm an economist with a specialty in economic geography, which basically is the combination of consumer behavior, economics, and location, the interaction between those three things. My assignment with this ongoing project is to dive into the demographics and the demographic change in Naperville in terms of household composition. For example, do we have more single-family households, or do we have more of a multi-family households? What is the composition of this households? Like, are children present? If so, how many? Or do we have two persons or single-person households? This all implies a different type of demand for the park district in terms of activities. So this is one thing. The other thing is, of course, we have to look at the aging of the population overall, how this would influence the programming and the offerings of the park district to meet the requirements that the park district has towards the community And it will also help us simply to organize the programming better so that the Park District can meet the change in demand. The other important part is the change in ethnicities, what ethnicities are growing, which ethnicities are declining within Naperville. This also has an implication on potential programming from the parks. The analysis can be done on a block group level, which basically gives the Park District the opportunity to really focus in on each of the facilities and take a close look to the households and the demographics that are surrounding that facility. This is the possibility when you do an analysis of block group level. Our findings, which will be summarized in tables, will be then combined with Jeff's findings, and we will turn this into recommendations. Another big part of our assignment is to basically figure out what people are doing, what sports do they participate, what leisure activities do they participate or attend. That could be, for example, concerts, type of concerts. Do they take educational classes? Do they take, they partake in any kind of group outdoor activities? So there's a whole wide variety that we can basically estimate the number of participants and the frequency of participation. So this gives you a very good market demand analysis for the facilities of the Park District. So this will also go into the assignment and into the report that we combine with Jeff's findings. One last thing, I think it's actually a good thing, not only because of the pandemic, but that you delayed this project, because we hopefully finally will get the detailed results from the 2020 census available, so we can basically do our analysis on the very latest and current findings from this survey. So that's a very good thing. Anyways, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions? No? No? Anna?
Just one question. Will any part of the survey, be in the language management thing for persons that don't speak English or English language?
Yeah, I looked at the most recent census data from Naperville. The largest non-white ethnic group in the community is the big category of Asian, which is a lot of different cultures, a lot of different languages. It's about 19%. So the next biggest group is African American, and any race that identifies as Hispanic or Latino, and both of those are about 5%. So we don't anticipate the need or the feasibility really as well for second languages, because the dispersion of those groups is so wide and therefore so small as a percentage of the population, and a lot of those groups are going to be bilingual anyway. There's going to be there's likely to be an English speaker in the household, so we don't feel the need is there for Naperville to have to offer alternative languages.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. Okay. Next, item for discussion is the property tax levy analysis. I think we all got a copy of that.
Yes, thank you. So,
Sorry.
thank you. So hopefully you all received in the weekly packet, the cover memo and quick analysis, sort of analysis of the potential, property tax freeze. So, tell me how you would like me to proceed. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer that on the information presented.
Any questions on that? Everything's clear? Okay.
I was trying to pull it up there.
Today's a fun night.
Thank you. No questions? Very clear. All right, item 3, 95th Street, Southern Lease Addendum.
Yes, at the November 11th meeting, we will be recommending to the board passage of addendum 5 to the 95th Street Center lease. This is the building that we lease on 95th Street next to the YMCA. Earlier this year, we reduced that lease down to 3 classrooms and are currently programming out of those 3 classrooms. Addendum 5 would exercise our option to extend the lease for 1 additional year for the year 2022. And then we would revisit this next year to determine where we would want to go as far as future leasing with this same property and develop a new lease agreement with the property owner. The property owner has agreed to keep our lease rate at the same rate that we paid in 2021, so there would be no increases to that overall rate. And we would continue to program the 3 classrooms, which includes a multi-purpose classroom, regular classroom used for general education type of programs, and then the Woodford studio that's used for practicing dance and fitness classes.
Any questions on that? Okay, you want the independent contractor agreements for program instruction?
Yes, right now we have 2 independent contractor agreements that we plan to bring to the board on November 11th. With some of our programs, they are so large that our payments out to contractors for instructing those programs generate payments that are over $25,000, over the staff threshold to be able to pay. So we bring these contracts to the board each year to be able to approve. Therefore, we can then pay the contractors more timely when those invoices come due. These are programs such as the Shotokan Karate that has a number of participants within the program, as well as our All-Star Sports programs. Now, these are some of the larger programs. We do work with other contractors that conduct martial arts programs or sports programs. They don't generate the payments over $25,000. We utilize a template independent contractor agreement that was developed with DIRTS assistance as well as with Federma. And that's something that we use for all of our independent contractors. So, we intend to bring both the All-Star Sports and Shotokan Karate agreements to the board November 11th. Shotokan anticipated payments for, I believe, $116,000 for the year. All-Star Sports would be at $95,000, but it's dependent upon the level of registration that's received, so that can fluctuate based upon the number of participants.
Any questions on that? All right, moving right along. 6.5, Knock Knolls Park Timber.
So this item was included in the October 8th weekly packet along with a structural engineering report. Also, we had a chance to discuss this item at the October 14th Parks and Recreation Committee. Probably the best way to describe this topic is the tale of 2 pedestrian bridges at Knock Knolls Park. The first bridge was built in 1988. It was a wooden structured bridge. It was not ADA accessible. The Americans with Disabilities Act was passed in 1990. And then in the second bridge was built in 2011. This was an ADA accessible bridge as part of segment 4 of the DuPage River Trail. And in 2011, staff identified the removal of the first bridge that was built in 1988, but figured since it was still in reasonably good condition and safe and sound, to keep it as long as at a time that it would need to be demolished. And that was actually earmarked in the 10-year capital overview for the budget year 2024. We had $67,000 in the budget to replace or to actually demolish that bridge. We looked at the idea of replacing that first bridge that was not ADA accessible, and the number we received from our structural engineer was $400,500. Based on that information as staff, we want to make a recommendation to the board to proceed with the original plan of demolishing this first bridge at Knock Knolls Park, knowing that a bridge approximately 350 feet away is readily available, that's ADA accessible for our patrons to utilize. And so we intend to present the topic tonight to the board with the understanding that we can proceed with bidding this project and bringing a contract for demolition to the board in early 2022. So we just want to open up for any questions the board might have this evening about the staff recommendation to demolish the secondary non-ADA accessible bridge at Knock Knolls Park.
Any comments?
I just had a quick question. So forgive my, memory here because I'm good at math and I do use the footbridge versus the bigger pedestrian bridge. I remember the few times I have used the bigger pedestrian bridge, it is bicycles come very quickly down it. I can't remember, is there some like markings on the pavement for people to walk versus bike? Because I can remember grabbing my kids for fear that they get run over by a bike, which I want both parties to be able to use it. But I found ourselves, when we go on hikes, we would utilize the footbridge versus the bigger bridge where the bikes would be coming very quickly past.
Yeah, so the segment 4 trail, and that's all part of federal standards. It does have, the trail itself has the markings of the right side and the left side. Also, we have signage, and we also found over the years we do an educational process initiative every year to inform trail users, especially to slow down if you know what the road bikes are cruising down the pathway. So we see that as being handled more on the education side, knowing that this new bridge, it is wider and it's built to the most recent standards.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Shears, when is the demolition going to take place, do you know?
We're targeting early next year. So tonight we want to present the topic, and obviously we'll answer any questions you have, but if there's no concerns, we intend to staff and move forward with bidding the project. Most likely we start bidding it, if not late this year, early next year. Contract would be presented to the board, I would say, in the first quarter of next year, and the demolition would probably occur in the first or second quarter of next year. So that's our game plan. And the reason why we're trying to move so quickly on this is because that bridge has to be closed at this time, based on the structural engineering report. It's just unsafe, you can't keep it open. So the sooner we can get it removed, we think the better it is.
Sounds good. Any other comments? Nope. Okay. Let's move on to 6F6 North Maintenance Facility roof replacement.
Yeah, so this item was also the October 8th, 2021 weekly packet memo. Contract for the North Maintenance Facility roof replacement work is anticipated to be presented to the board for approval either late this year or early next year. The North Maintenance Facility renovations project will be planned in phases in order to minimize disruption in daily operations. The phases include roofing and interior work in 2022 and site improvements in 2023. The first phase of work involves replacement of the North Maintenance Facility roof in spring of next year. So it's just an update this time that a contract will be coming to you for this project either late this year or early next year.
Any comments on that? All right. Next one, 6F7, new and updated personnel policies.
Yes, at the November 11th board meeting, I intend to bring 3 revised personnel policies and 1 brand new personnel policy to you for consideration. This is out of the typical review cycle, and I'm going to explain why here in just a second. So our Director of Parks and Director of Golf have received feedback from staff that currently are part-time 30-plus positions about the amount of paid time off they receive. The most paid time off available to individuals in these positions on an annual basis is 4 days, 32 hours. I don't take this along like that, some things are worded in the policy, so I want to state both. You can probably do basic math, I'm confident in that. So, as a means to attract and retain staff in these positions, I'm recommending changes to 2 policies in relation to the time off. First, the district's vacations policies. Recommended revisions to this policy give our part-time 30-plus positions 5 days, 40 hours on an annual basis. Employees that are in year-round part-time 30-plus positions would then have the opportunity to carry over up to 16 hours or 2 days annually. We have 9-month part-time 30-plus positions as well. So those positions would not be permitted to carry over additional time off. We would pay them out in remaining time when they separate for the season. And they would be eligible for up to 4 days of vacation on an annual basis. This vacation benefit is distinctly different than that our full-time staff receive. And the pool rates are different as well. So we would have 2 vacation policies essentially, but we don't have any concerns about the ability to manage those. And the other policy is going to be our personal days policy. Specifically, an increase in the number of days provided to our part-time 30-plus staff annually. Year-round 30-plus positions receive 5 personal days. The other positions would then increase from 3 to 4 days. So this is an increase essentially of 1 day for those individuals in those positions. We would really look forward to being able to highlight the recommended changes in paid time off we post for these positions. The other position coming, or excuse me, policy coming to you is not as fun of a time off policy, it's a bereavement policy. The current policy permits full-time staff to use up to 3 sick days for bereavement for the immediate family members. As written, the policy doesn't allow for our full-time equivalent staff to use any sick time. I believe that was just an oversight when the policy was written, and it was like one of those kind of moments, so we're going to correct that with these provisions. But the key change to the policy applies when an employee loses an immediate family member. But that employee is likely to be the one either making the arrangements or heavily involved in making those arrangements. So the revisions would allow for up to 1 week of bereavement time, sick time use. That would just be though for spouses, parents, children, and or a sibling. The terminology of 1 week versus the number of days is strategic because we know a lot of staff that are in full-time equivalent positions that work 4 days a week, and then we also have some staff that work 4 10-hour days. The policy still allows for employees to take more than 3 days or work week off for bereavement purposes. They would just have to use any available vacation or personal time to take that additional time off. So we would have 2 tiers of time off available under the bereavement policy as far as sick time use goes. Again, we don't consider this to be a burden administratively, it just gives those staff and those, when they lost a loved one, they got a little bit more sick time that they can use for those situations. The new policy is in addition to our employee benefits section. The district is applying for the IPRA Exceptional Workplace Award. There are 48 questions on the application. Each is assigned a point value. We don't know how many points each question is, so I'm taking no risks. And I think so the wellness policy, we haven't had one, which is kind of odd when I look back, because for 10 years, we have a really robust wellness program, but no overarching policy. So the policy will explain why the district offers a staff wellness program, the typical program components, and goes through the cycle of review of the policy and the program. Any questions, any of the questions?
What's the number of sick days, the 2 tiers you were kind of just talking about?
So it would be for those 4 relations, it would be up to 1 week. And then for our other immediate family members, which are also defined in policy, it would be 3 days. But
I'm sorry, how many total sick days do we allow per year?
no, just in general.
Sorry, in general.
Okay, all right, so our full-time staff, now our full-time equivalent staff would accrue on a prorated basis, so I'll just start full-time. Accrue 1 day per month, and then accrue up to 60 days in total before they start losing time.
Any other questions? No?
Okay, great, we see those on the 11th, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 698 golf cart purchase.
Thank you. In the October 22nd weekly packet, you received a memo regarding the proposal to purchase 15 new golf carts for use at Naperville Golf Course. This purchase will be included on the November 11th purchase report consent agenda for the board's approval. Our staff has solicited proposals for the purchase as part of our annual golf cart replacement plan. Each year, the district will purchase 15 new golf carts to replace the oldest carts in our fleet of more than 120 carts at our courses, which guarantees the golf courses to have carts no more than 8 seasons of use. With our golf staff maintaining those golf carts, our customers are assured of having a dependable golf cart that is not worn down by age or use. This is important as golf this past year has seen close to 40,000 cart rounds, and that directly resulted in more than $700,000 in direct revenues. Staff is recommending 15 2022 Yamaha Drive 2 carts be purchased using the Sourcewell purchasing agreement for a total price of $76,905, which is identical to the price we received for our 2021 purchase. This was originally part of our 2022 golf capital. However, this is being proposed to be purchased as part of 2021 golf capital. These funds are available now due to a mower purchase previously approved, experiencing significant supply delays, which would not allow this equipment to be delivered this year. Those mowers will be moved to 2022 golf capital, and the Yamaha carts being proposed today have a confirmed delivery date and then in stock, being ready for us by the end of the year. One change to mention from previous golf cart purchases is disposal of the district's golf carts. In previous years, the district used the value of the golf carts being replaced to lower the overall purchase price of the new carts. So they're generally trading them in. Staff has occasionally gauged the merit of this process by selling some of the used carts on Gov Deals. And this past year, we found the value of our used carts increased to the point where we are going to expect more value selling the carts individually than trading them in. Staff is going to be selling these 15 carts, being proposed, selling these 15 carts on Gov Deals once they are declared surplus. Happy to answer any questions.
I know we've used the same process to buy a certain number of carts every year, and I think it's worked very well for us over the years, so I think we're just continuing that. The new piece of it is just selling versus trading in.
Yeah, we've been kind of investigating this over the past few years, and through trading a couple of golf carts this past year, we found that we're getting close to $2,000 in each golf cart via Gov Deals, which is about $1,500 is what we normally get through trade-in.
Yeah.
So we're looking at maybe $500 per cart value that we would see.
Well, I think the fact that we, regularly are refurbishing or, refilling our cart supply, our carts on duty may not be getting as much, beat to death as some other carts in other places, so we're gonna get a better, a much better dollar for selling them.
Absolutely.
So I think that, I think it's great that the staff even, look into that whole, operation, so. Good. Any other?
Yeah, I saw in the packet, you mentioned solar and electric. Would you mind speaking to the cost benefit analysis of the carts we're getting versus alternatives?
The electric carts generally are at the same price, the original purchase price as a gas cart. The difference in price comes over the time of we own the golf cart. If we own a golf cart for 8 years, for example, what we're normally doing right now, eventually we will have to replace the batteries in an electric golf cart. Replacing the batteries in one electric golf cart will cost over $1,000. The other issue comes when we come to trade in the golf cart or sell the golf cart. The resale value of an electric golf cart is significantly less than a gas golf cart, just because once again, you're looking at battery replacement every 5 years, whereas a gas engine with proper maintenance can last indefinitely.
Every so many years, we visited that, and just the cost to install electric in our cart bin is significant.
That's correct. That's the other main issue. The initial cost for us to upgrade their facilities to be able to handle 60 individual golf cart chargers would be a large initial cost that we have to take on.
I would say that golf staff does look at that periodically, and we haven't found that the cost benefit is, somewhat that we should change, but they do continue to look at that, which we should, so.
Yeah, we're just seeing right now, looking at what we're seeing for our resale value for our gas golf carts, we're looking at over $2,000 on a $5,000 purchase price in 8 years of use. It's a pretty good return we're getting.
Any other questions or comments on that? All right, thank you. Next one is 6.9 contract mowing services review. Oh, exciting now.
Good evening. At the November 11th meeting, we seeking approval of options for new contract mowing services with Veroni Landscape for the 2022 mowing season. The district first entered into a contract with Veroni in 2017, with option years picked up in 2018 and 2019. After going out to bid again in the 2020 mowing season, Veroni again won the contract with the option picked up last year, and another option to renew again in 2022. As listed in the weekly board packet, the contract covers mowing of 121.76 acres weekly for 32 weeks at a cost of $23.99 per acre. The contract is written not to exceed a total value of $93,472.71.
Any comments about home services? Okay. Declaration of surplus property.
So also at the November 11th meeting, we're presenting our intent to surplus several items and pieces of equipment from the fleet, golf, parks, and recreation departments. Each of the items was deemed no longer necessary for their intended purposes, and a detailed list was presented in the October 22nd weekly packet. As been our process in the past, we look to trade in, recycle, or sell each of the items on GovDeals website. And I did want to add that we did in part receive a cedar that we've been waiting months for, so that will also appear on the next month.
Yeah. Any questions on that? Okay.
Thank you.
And 611 is the 2022 board meeting schedule.
I passed out a draft schedule for next year of the board meetings. Kind of schedule all of them at Fort Hill. It works out with our Parks and Rec meetings, proceeding at least through the middle of next year when the committee composition changes and the schedule would change. But we've got them set up here. So the only two issues, this is pretty much our standard schedule, second and fourth Thursday of every month except November, December, when we had one. The IPRA conference is being held the 27th through the 29th of January. So my recommendation is to, so we don't miss another workshop meeting, is to shift our schedule in January and hold a meeting on the 6th and the 20th. If that works out for everyone.
Yeah, there's a long period of time in this December to January. If we shift it up a week, then we get 2 meetings in and we don't have to worry about it. So, is everybody with that one?
And then again with NRPA, also conflicts because it's scheduled to run October 20th through the 22nd. We can do what we did last year, play it by ear, see what attendance we have, and there's another, we can move that back another week if needed, and still have 2 meetings.
Yeah, we were thinking that we would wait on that particular one, the October 27th one, just to see. We know that people will want to go to the conference, but we've determined whether or not we actually need a meeting in that month.
And then this schedule will be submitted for approval.
So the only real change we'll make to that would be the January 6th and January 20th.
And that will affect the Parks and Rec committee meeting, it will be 6.
Yeah, you can change that. Okay. Any other comments on that particular? All right. And finally, board policies and bylaws review.
So in the weekly packet, you would have received a draft copy of the revised changes to the board policies, pretty much minor in nature. An added suggestion from Vice President Gibson was the employment of relatives to this policy 4.9. Revise it to gender neutral language and include grandparents as well. So if that's appropriate, we can consider making that revision as well. This will come for final approval at November 11th as well. If there are any other revisions, these were reviewed by legal counsel, President Todd and Vice President Gibson.
Derek, you good with that?
Yeah, we can add.
There's no prohibition about for that.
Thank you. Any other comments on that particular one? No? Okay. Our next regular meeting for the commissioners is November 11th, here at Fort Hill at 7 o'clock. We do not have an executive session tonight, correct?
to adjourn the October 28th, 2021 regular meeting. Board of Commissioners.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Thank you all.